the transport of oxygen in plant is polar in nature. So what do you mean by polar transport of oxygen? Means it is synthesized in epiphysis. The site of biosynthesis of oxygen in plant is shoot apical meristem, and from here it will move downward from cell to cell through phloem in order to exert its effect in the downward portion of the stem. So this was first proved by this particular experiment, that oxygen transport of oxygen in plant is polar. So what was done? A particular section of the stem was cut, of this stump was cut, and this A portion is known as apical end, and this B portion is the basal end. So what happened? A block of agar was put over the apical stem, which was a source of oxygen, and again a receiver block, that is block B, was put in the basal end, which was meant to receive the oxygen which get transported from apical part to basal part. So after some time we observed that the oxygen which is present here in the block A got transferred down this stump, and it got accumulated in the receiver block, that is block B. We could isolate oxygen which got accumulated here. But when this orientation of this stump section was reversed, that is basal end was turned upwards and apical end was turned downward, and again we put one block having oxygen in it, and this block was free of oxygen. We did not we did not isolate any oxygen from this block. It shows that oxygen didn't move from this portion to this portion. Oxygen got by itself, that the orientation of the stump has been reversed. That's why this experiment proves that the oxygen transport is polar in nature. Now here you can see that movement of oxygen takes place through phloem by bulk flow, and the rate of movement is 5 to 20 centimeter per hour. So this is a very important simplified chemiosmotic model of polar oxygen transport. Here it is shown that from cell to cell the oxygen moves from top to basal end in the plant, and I would like to explain it. You can see that this is the first cell, this is second cell, this is third cell. So there are two important parts of oxygen movement, that is oxygen influx and oxygen efflux. Influx means oxygen is moving inside the new cell, and efflux means oxygen is moving out of the older one, the cell which is present above. So first of all efflux will take place, and then influx will take place, and again efflux will take place from this, and again influx will take place in third cell. So let us see. Here you can see there are two forms of oxygen, that is IAA minus form, this is dissociated form, anionic form, and this is IAAH, that is this is undissociated form, and this undissociated form of oxygen is lipophilic in nature, means it can diffuse through the plasma membrane, the lipid plasma membrane. It can diffuse easily, and it doesn't require the aid of any transporter to get inside the cell. But this IAA minus form is not lipophilic, and it requires the help of transporter which is known as permease H plus co-transporter. So by this co-transporter means H plus will also move inside along with one molecule of IAA minus. So what will happen? See, there are H plus ATPase pump on the plasma membrane which pumps H plus from cytosol to extracellular space, and because of the activity of this H plus ATPase pump, the extracellular space becomes acidic in nature. So what happens? The H plus is available in plenty in this region, and when IAA minus will get this H plus, it will try to convert into IAAH. So this is a reversible phenomenon. It will if it will get plenty of H plus, it will convert to IAH, and it will again dissociate to get converted into these two. So what happens? Basically the predominant form of oxygen in plant is IAA minus, but if it will combine with this, it will form this compound, undissociated form, and if it is present in undissociated form, it will diffuse easily through the plasma membrane, and it will enter inside the cytosol. But if it doesn't get H plus, it will remain as such in anionic form, and it will move inside the cytosol through the help of this co-transporter. So both these forms will enter inside the cytosol. Again, now you can see the pH of the cytosol is 7, while the pH of this extracellular space is 5. So is at this pH the oxime will try to remain in IAA minus form, means anionic form is the preferred form for this cytosolic portion. So what happened? Again this IAA minus will try to get effluxed. It will try to move out of this particular cell and it will try to enter the next cell which is present downwards below. So this IAA minus for its exit again require the help of efflux carrier. So these are the efflux carrier which you can see in the form of balls, and these are known as pin proteins. So IAA minus will move out of the cell, and again by this same phenomenon it will move in the another cell. So by this repeated phenomenon from top to bottom the oxygen will move from by the mechanism of polar transport. Now coming to the physiological role of oxygen, means what are the developmental effects of oxygen in plant. So first of all, oxygen is a plant growth hormones, means it will affect the growth. So how it will affect the growth? By cell elongation. Oxygen affects the elongation of the cell. So how oxygen affects the elongation of the cell, we will come to it. So you can see in this figure what happens. This is the plasma membrane and it has oxygen binding protein on the plasma membrane. If oxygen is present, exogenous oxygen is present, it will bind with this ABP, which is the receptor of oxygen, and when there will be binding of oxygen with its receptor, it will cause a signal transduction mechanism, and by this signal transduction pathway this information will be received by DNA which is present in the nucleus that oxygen has been received by the cell. So in response to oxygen, what will happen? The nucleus will respond. The DNA present in the nucleus will respond. See, this is the plant cell before cell elongation, and this is plant cell after elongation. So this is H plus ATPase which is present in the plasma membrane. So in response to oxygen, the DNA will get activated and it will activate the activity of this H plus ATPase which is present on the plasma membrane, and the already existing H plus ATPase will be activated, and beside this new H plus ATPase form will be biosynthesized on the plasma membrane. So the dual effect, what will be the dual effect? More and more of H plus will be pumped from cytosol to extracellular space. So if more and more of H plus will be expelled out, pumped out in extracellular space, then the acidity of this extracellular space will increase, means concentration of H plus will increase. Now what is the effect of this H plus? You see, this H plus will activate the cell wall loosening enzymes, and as you know that skeleton of the cell wall is made up of polysaccharides, and linkage, cross linkage of this polysaccharide is having expansion protein in it. So what will happen? This H plus will act on this polysaccharide microfibril, and this polysaccharide microfibril will get broken down, and beside this there will be increased activity of cell wall loosening enzyme, and by the action of both the breakage of this polysaccharide cross fibrils along with expansion protein along with cell wall loosening enzyme, this cytoskeleton of the cell will get disrupted, will get broken down. And another effect of oxygen, what it will do? It will lead to the entry of this water inside the cell. So entry of water will lead to increase in turgor pressure. So in response to this increased turgor pressure, the cell will expand in size. There will be turgor pressure from all around, increased turgor pressure from all around on the walls, and in response to it, the cell will expand. Now the third action of oxygen is what? It will try to heal the broken polysaccharide, broken cell wall structure. So again the DNA which is present in nucleus will be activated for synthesis of new wall materials. New wall materials means cellulose and pectin. So new wall materials will be synthesized and it will be exported to this wall region, and there will be reconstruction of this broken cell wall, and as a result of all these three activities, cell will get elongated or enlarged from small to larger. So this cell elongation or the effect of auxin for cell elongation is quite remarkable in Cucurbitaceae family. In fruits of Cucurbitaceae family, especially in bottle gourd, you would have heard or seen in television or in news that farmer used to use the injection of auxin for elongation of the fruit of bottle gourd so that it may become marketable earlier. Also you can see that if you cut the bottle gourd fruit in two pieces, then it will try to elongate even during storage or refrigeration. So this effect, cell elongation, the effect of cell elongation because of auxin is very much remarkable, especially in Cucurbitaceae, fruits of Cucurbitaceae family. Next developmental role of auxin is apical dominance. So the definition you can see, the removal of apical bud results in the rapid growth of the lateral bud, and this phenomenon in which the apical bud dominates over the lateral bud and does not allow the latter to grow is called as apical dominance. So in genetics also you would have studied that there is a dominant allele and there is a recessive allele, and dominant allele tries to mask the recessive allele. Similarly, this apical bud is dominant over the lateral bud. So if the apical bud is growing or it is present or it is intact, it will try to mask the growth of lateral bud. So if you remove this apical bud, then the lateral bud will erupt, it will grow. So this phenomenon of dominance of apical bud over the lateral bud is known as apical dominance, and it is governed or regulated by auxin. Four important conditions which prove that auxin regulates or governs the apical dominance. So first one is the condition in which the apical bud is intact or apical bud is growing, then lateral bud growth will be inhibited in this case. Now in this case what happens, the apical bud has been removed, but its substitute is there, means auxin, exogenous auxin has been applied along with lanolin. Then again the same effect will be there, that the growth of lateral bud will be suppressed. So what is lanolin? Lanolin is a fat like substance which is obtained from wool, and it acts as a solvent for dissolving auxin. So auxin is dissolved in this, and this paste is applied over here. The apical bud has been removed, but this paste has been applied which substitute for apical bud, and if it is present, it will suppress the growth of lateral bud. Now this condition shows that the apical bud has been removed, and after the removal of the apical bud, the growth of lateral bud is increased. There is eruption of lateral buds. Here what happened, there is apical bud is intact, but we have applied the inhibitor of auxin. So because of the inhibitor of auxin, again the lateral bud will emerge. Beside this, cytokinin is another hormone which we will discuss in next class, and this cytokinin acts as antagonist of auxin. Means if intact bud is there, apical bud is intact, and you apply exogenous application of cytokinin, then again there will be growth of apical bud, lateral bud. Now this apical dominance or growth of lateral bud is because of the interaction of sugar and hormone. There is interplay of sugar and hormone to control apical dominance. Means if apical bud is intact, then the sugar will shift towards the apical bud. But if this apical bud is removed, then sugar will accumulate in the lateral bud, and because of presence of sugar, large amount of water will move to it, and this will result in eruption of the lateral bud. Now the third important developmental role of auxin is induction of rooting in cutting. This is the cutting of the plants which are propagated vegetatively like rose and mango. So here you can see these are the cutting of the plants, and if you apply auxin in lanolin paste in the basal end, then after some time the roots will get immersed. These are the lateral roots, adventitious root. First of all we apply auxin here, and then we tie it with gunny bag and we provide moisture. Then in 3 to 5 days or within a week, there will be formation of adventitious roots. So what happens here in this figure, you can see that auxin causes the cell division in cambium, in vascular cambium, because of which there is eruption of lateral roots. The lateral roots emerge. So because of this application of auxin, you can get these roots very easily in very less time, and the plants will get established very early. Now the fourth developmental role of auxin is prevention of abscission. So you can see here in this figure, this is the zone of abscission. In a young plant, what happens, this zone, abscission zone, is not formed, but when there is aging in the plant, when there is senescence in the plant, then the leaf or the fruit or the flower tries to fall off from the twig, from the branch to which it is attached. So during that, this falling off of the organs from the twig is prevented by auxin. But what happens when there is supraoptimal concentration of auxin, it leads to the biosynthesis of ethylene in the plant, and this ethylene increases the process of abscission, and it increases the falling off of leaf, fruit or flower. So this concentration of auxin is very much important to control the process of abscission. So this is abscission zone. When the plant is in good health, it is young, the organs are young, then nutrient and water will move through this zone, and through this zone, which will help to sustain the growth of the organs. But during the process of senescence, what happens, the abscission zone will block the movement of water and nutrient from the main branch to the organ, because of which this organ will get deprived of water and nutrient, and it will fall off from the twig or the main branch. Now next role of auxin is parthenocarpy. So parthenocarpy is the natural or artificial induction of fruit without fertilization of ovule, leading to the formation of seedless fruit. So sometimes the formation of seedless fruit is a desirable trait, especially in case of melons, tomato and cucumber. So you would have seen that the seedless cucumber are having high value, market value, especially in 5-star hotels. So that's why the seedless tomato are nowadays in demand and are desirable. So we can we can produce seedless tomato by the this parthenocarpy phenomenon, and you know that auxin leads to the formation of parthenocarpic fruit, and this is known as artificial parthenocarpy. So beside this, there is another important term, that is stenospermocarpy. Means here there is formation of seeds, but they get aborted, and that's why there is formation of seedless fruit. So this is the Thompson seedless variety of grapes, in which the seedlessness of this grape is not because of parthenocarpy, but it is because of stenospermocarpy. So seeds are very much important for genetic evaluation. So if the fruits are seedless in nature because of parthenocarpy, then it has certain drawbacks also, and the drawback is that the genetic diversity of the species will be reduced significantly. But there are certain fruit crops like tomato, summer squash, fig, etc., in which parthenocarpy is a desirable phenomenon, and also in certain fruits where staminate trees are not required to be planted to provide pollen, this parthenocarpy is desirable. Now next role of auxin in plant is formation of callus, or you can say the differentiation of callus. So here you can see that there are rooty callus, this is general normal callus, this is for formation of shoot, and this is control. There are 4 conditions. So ratio of cytokinin to auxin determine the differentiation of this callus. Means cytokinin promotes shoot formation and auxin promotes root formation in callus. So if the ratio of cytokinin to auxin is high, then there will be formation of shoot. If the ratio of auxin to cytokinin to auxin is low, then it will lead to the formation of rooty callus. And if the concentration of cytokinin is to auxin is equal to 1, then there will be formation of normal callus. Means callus will grow on increasing in size, but it will not differentiate into shoot or root, and this is control. So you would have studied in tissue culture laboratory, where we provide these 2 hormones, cytokinin and auxin, in particular concentration in the media which we prepare for tissue culture, and because of the concentration of these 2 hormones, the differentiation of this callus is regulated, that is formation of shoot or formation of root. Now there are certain important practical or commercial uses of auxin, that is it breaks seed dormancy, rooting of cutting in woody plants, which I discussed in previous slide. Next is the flowering, fruit setting, prevention of premature drop of fruit, weed control, prevention of sprouting by inhibition of buds, and thinning of compact fruit. Here you can see the practical application of auxin in preventing the sprouting of potato tubers during storage. Here this is a very common phenomenon that during storage there is formation of buds, sprouting of these potato tubers, which is not desirable, and it will reduce the market value of potato. So if we will apply NaA, which is a derivative of auxin or malic hydrazide in a storage condition, then it will reduce or it will inhibit the sprouting of potato. This is the practical application of auxin as weedicide. So auxin are a selective weedicides. Selective means it will kill the broadleaf weed, but it will not kill the monocots, means the plants which is having narrow leaves. So it is generally used in field of cereals like rice, wheat, maize, sugarcane, because these crops are monocots, and if these crops are having a dicot weed in their field, then we can use auxin, which will kill the dicot weeds, but it will not affect the monocot cereals. So why another important question is why auxin kills the broadleaf weeds? Why not the narrow one? Why not the monocots? Because in the cytoplasm of monocots there are certain auxin binding protein which binds the exogenously applied auxin to it, and it nullifies its action. That's why auxin doesn't acts as weedicide in monocots like cereals like wheat, rice and sugarcane, and that's why these plants are protected from weedicidal action of auxin, while broadleaf plant, that is weeds, are killed. Now is a very important practical application of auxin is that it thins the fruit which are produced in large amount. So thinning means what is the, first of all you try to understand the meaning of thinning. Means if the fruits are in large amount in cluster, then application of auxin will lead to fall down of certain fruits from this bunch, from this cluster, and the fruits which will remain after getting thinned, they will increase, they will have improved size, improved quality. So again I would like to give you example of a family where there are large number of children. Means if any family is having 5 to 6 children, then the earning of the father is divided into 4 or 5 or 6 children. So every children will get very less amount of food, very less amount of money for their education, for clothes and for upbringing, and as a result what will happen? The children will be malnourished, malformed. Their quality will not be improved because there is a division of resource among themselves. But if there are only 2 children or only one child in the family, then the earning of the father or the earning of the parents will be available in plenty for few number of children, and their growth, their development, their education, their fooding, their clothing will be fully satisfied. So they will improve in quality. Similarly is the case in the similar is the case here in the fruit. So similar is the condition in the fruits like guava and apple. It used generally this guava you would have seen in your orchard that there is profuse flowering or profuse fruiting, especially in case of guava or apple, and large number of fruitlets are there in the bunch. So if there are large number of fruitlets in the bunch, there will be diversion of the nutrient and water among all these fruitlets. As a result, the marketable value of the fruit will be reduced. The quality and the size of the fruit will get reduced. So we generally thin these fruitlets by application of auxin. Some of the fruitlet will drop down and only few fruits will be there, fruitlets will be there, and they will receive adequate amount of nutrient and water and light. As a result, their quality will be enhanced, means they will have improved quality, improved size. So this is the practical, important, desirable practical application of auxin. Thank you.